Welcome to the Fintech Scaling Show. This podcast is sponsored by Scale Up Consulting, helping fintech startups accelerate customer acquisition and set up business operations to scale systematically. When you're ready to grow, reach out to us at richard@scaleupconsulting.co. Now, over to the show with Richard Doty, founder and host.
Hello, everyone. Today on the show, we have Kirsty, Bisset, CEO of SwiftX, and Barry Tuck, CSO of SwiftX. Hi, guys. Great to have you on the show. How are things going out in Durban today?
Hey, Richard. Thanks so much for having us. It's pretty torturous given how beautiful the weather is in winter in Durban and having to be indoors, but we're just focusing on survival, I guess.
Yeah, we're trying to make the most out of it and use the time to drive our businesses, without the distractions of real life. But yeah, looking out the window and seeing what's happening out there really is a challenge.
Yeah, it sounds like, I'm out there in London. It sounds like a difficult situation to be in. But more of that later. Listen, guys, maybe we can start off the show by you guys telling us a bit about yourselves, your backgrounds, and also how your business started.
I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I started my journey in the business incubation space in Johannesburg, and I started that job just after I studied. And I was in that job for about a year, and it was my first kind of real exposure into entrepreneurship and how important it is to grow all over the world. During that same time, the digital marketing space was kind of rearing its head in South Africa, and I became very interested in that. So I made the very silly mistake of quitting my job and then going to look for work. And the job market was an absolute wreck. It was about 2012, and with 2 degrees in experience, I could not find a job. And I didn't have the kind of agency experience that was needed to find one. So I eventually got to a point where I had to do something. I was running out of money. I just couldn't find something that was fulfilling me. So in August 2012, I thought, well, if no one's going to hire me, I'll just do it myself. So I started my first business, which is called Stir, which is still running, which is a digital agency. And yeah, that was 8 years ago. Since then, I've been involved in 5 businesses since, 3 of which have been in e-commerce, 2 of which sold, 1 failed. And then in about 2018, SwiftX was born. It happened very naturally and very organically. Barry and I have been involved in the cryptocurrency world since 2013?
Yeah, 2012.
2012. Yeah. So, we've always been forward thinkers and looking to the next thing. And we saw this growth of cryptocurrency, subsequently all fintech. And we're approached by a friend of ours who ran a very successful media website in South Africa called SA Crypto. It's now called Global Crypto, so we can, get into the global market. And he said, well, we have so many brands approaching us wanting to advertise on the website and then going, well, what's next? Well, how else can we market our business? A lot of these people were, hardcore software devs and techies and had excellent life-changing products, but no idea how to market these products. So James came to us and said, well, you guys are incredible marketing minds. Should we partner and create an agency that focuses entirely on fintech companies? And that's basically, around our kitchen table, how SwiftX was born. We saw the need for a specialized company that could go to a specific industry, specific market, and help these businesses grow.
My journey was a little bit different, ultimately building towards one day partnering with Kirst, both in business and in life, which we'll get into maybe, I don't know. I was studying to be a town planner, and then I switched to psychology, and through my sort of academic career, I was the person in class who wanted to really just go and surf and spend time on the beach. Through that, I fell in love with photography and storytelling. And so it just may seem totally out of context with where I am right now, but I embraced sort of storytelling as my passion. And for 12 years, I worked as a freelance photojournalist, mainly shooting the things that I loved, surfing and skateboarding and snowboarding and traveling the world to crazy places, just telling stories and selling them to magazines. Eventually ended up as a magazine editor. And then in around 2008, I probably giving away my age there, but 2008, I saw the shift away from print and away from publishing with the sort of digital, obviously websites and blogs and even social media had been around for a while, but they were suddenly beginning to actually impact print media. I like to think of myself as forward thinking, so began making the move into online content marketing. I'd worked with Red Bull for years and sort of helped them formulate their content marketing. And I was doing it purely out of the love because I wanted to tell great stories, and I was looking for someone who had a bit of money to actually help me fund them, And I realized that there was something to it. So I opened an agency in 2008 called Gorilla, essentially positioned as a digital marketing agency, focusing specifically on content marketing, on storytelling. And we went through 2 really hard years, as you do with any startup. But when you're selling a product that nobody's buying, it's even harder. So we went through a major, obviously a personal and existential crisis on my side in terms of am I doing the right thing? But the focus was on educating brands, on educating a lot of the big corporates out there. And 2010 is when it suddenly changed for us in South Africa. A lot of the big corporates who'd been talking to started getting pressure from the international clients to actually move into the space. And Gorilla actually started gaining a lot of traction. We landed huge accounts with Unilever, with MTN, Nissan, some huge corporate accounts, and actually suddenly now had a business. And I had to transition from someone who had a self-employed kind of mindset, now running a team, managing people, managing clients. I had to be responsible and act like an adult. And it was a real baptism of fire. It kind of spurred and ignited this feeling for this passion for entrepreneurship and for building businesses. And I think where I'd kind of looked at Gorilla as being the thing I would, sort of buy my house and sort of retire at the end of, sell and retire. 5 years into it, I sold it and moved on to the next thing, which was at that stage a joint venture with the Hurt and Carter Group. We launched, I like the idea of a big brother to sort of help with the bills. Launched a JV with them to help them. If you're not familiar with Hurt and Carter, it's a massive print company who are looking at the digital space and how they could digitally transform. So I launched a company with them called Patent Upper Digital. Just began assisting with their digital marketing efforts in terms of their client base, which was huge. And sort of went from someone learning how to market and that into someone who was suddenly really in the deep end with the biggest brands in South Africa and in the world. And across multiple verticals, from selling sugar into the lower end, into like the township markets, to selling Ferrero Rocher chocolates and Omar rusks and Shell. It was across so many different verticals. It was a huge learning curve for me. At the same time, because of the digital space, I began looking at the innovations, what was happening, where was this whole space going, so I could be on top of it for my clients. And at the same time, working very closely with Kirst because her brain is incredible, and I was picking it to learn as much as I could. And I think the things we'd always worked together, was never formalized. And so she really helped me massively, both through Gorilla and through Patent Upper Digital. And then this whole cryptocurrency, blockchain kind of thing started happening. And we were investing in it. We were playing with it. We were beginning to learn and understand it. And we began to see the impact that it could have in terms of transforming the world, closing the wealth gap, making investment and banking more accessible and more democratized. And it was something that spoke to us both from an opportunistic sort of perspective, and I'm trying to frame that in as positive a way as possible. There was an opportunity to make money there, which is, of course, for any entrepreneur is key. At the same time, we believed it would do good. And that's always been a key part of our ethos. We want to try and make a difference in the world. And sometimes when you're just selling consumable goods, it doesn't necessarily translate as well. And we saw the opportunity with this space and this new tech that was coming to the fore. And as Kirst mentioned, SwiftX was born out of various conversations with people immersed in the space. And here we sit now in November 2020. Yeah, where are we now? No, 2019. This lockdown's really affecting. What
lockdown brain is real.
What year is it? November 2019. I exited and launched SwiftX with Kirst and partners. Well, actually, it had been launched earlier, but dedicated myself to it full time to really sort of drive it. So that's the very long story about who I and we are.
No, it's, great stories. And I think you mentioned a couple of key things there. One is innovation. The other is keep evolving. And how has SwiftX innovated and evolved itself over the last, I don't want to say a few months, but over the last, since launching, since inception, to keep it relevant and what have you?
SwiftX has become something that we didn't plan. We started SwiftX as purely a marketing agency. We were like, if these are fintech, remote digital products, we will market them digitally. What we didn't realize would happen was the caliber of person that we were dealing with. And they've ranged from startups with literally just an idea to round C, D funding companies. So the common thread that ran through all of the individuals, the founders in particular, was that they were very technical, and a lot of them have never had a business before, have never run a business before. So we found SwiftX very organically moving from simply a marketing company to a company that consults with founders to develop go-to-market strategies, to put together investor memorandums, to put together pitch decks for investors. So, and it's been a lot of fun, I'm not going to lie. It's actually been the most fulfilling experience seeing the difference that we've made to these businesses, seeing them acquire funding, seeing the downloads happen, seeing the customer acquisition. It's been such a fulfilling experience just seeing those numbers climb, which is something that you don't experience when you're in a working with consumer clients. You don't know how many rusks you've sold really, purely because of your efforts. But this has been a very satisfying experience, and it continues to evolve.
I mean, maybe just stick on that thread for a second. I mean, can you walk through a little case study or example of how some of your strategies are working on a client today, or have worked with some of your clients? Maybe 2 examples, maybe seed funding, helping them get an understanding of how to go to market, and maybe later on the acquiring side of things. That'll be quite interesting.
Yeah, we've got a few quite cool examples there. I think I'll start off at the kind of startup level. One of the businesses that we're working with, and I'll talk a little bit about the model too. Traditionally a marketing agency purely bills hours, for deliverables. And we believe that model, first of all, isn't sustainable and isn't scalable. So we're trying to look at hybrid kind of models. And one of the ones we take on with our startup clients a lot is we're trading equity for our skill sets. And, to Kirst's point, in terms of coming in and really hand-holding these entrepreneurs from the very beginning, with Fraxium, when we began engaging with Lou Morkel, who's the CTO and founder there, and just a phenomenal individual, aside from his brain, he has a beautiful heart too. He is a very technical person. He's one of the best blockchain developers in the world. And he's building a beautiful product, and he has built a beautiful product. But he was battling to articulate it and to even give it, tell the story of the brand. So we had to get in right at ground zero with him, help him in translating what the tech could do into a message and into a communication strategy. And that went from creating the logo and the brand and the entire mantra for the company through to then creating the investor pitch decks and building the website, which is still under construction. So please don't go look at it. It's the one that the back-end dev team threw up, and it's not the best looking thing at the moment. Maybe by the time this podcast goes live, it will be ready. I hope it will be, the one that we're busy putting up. But we've really sort of been through a journey of helping him build the basis and the foundations for the business to now go to market. And, we're now in the process of helping him pitch and hopefully land some funding, So that's just one example of the very sort of building bricks of a business. And then some of the others, I'm just trying to think of a really good example in terms of actual growth strategy, and that maybe global crypto is an example. It was one of it's a crypto a crypto news platform that actually now falls within the SwiftX stable. And it was a small little portal actually named SA Crypto at the time when we got involved and with it. And just from a positioning point of view, we saw some issues in that it was purely focused on the South African cryptocurrency market, which while, South Africa still we still ranked quite highly in terms of crypto. It is a tiny market, And we looked at the content that James was creating. Yeah. We looked at the quality of content that was going onto the platform. We're going, this has global relevance. It really is wasted just on a few thousand or, maybe 10, 20,000 people in South Africa. Let's get it out there. So we went through a whole exercise with him of rebranding it to Global Crypto, help negotiate some advertising deals, getting some revenue into the platform, and then began driving customer acquisition to actually drive people to the platform to read the content, engage with it. And it's been highly successful. The viewership on the content has gone up 10 times. He's now launched a podcast too, which focuses on the crypto space. It's funded by Luno, which is, I think, one of the top 10 global crypto exchanges in the world. And he is getting interviews with some of the biggest names in crypto and blockchain. And it's been a phenomenal success story from taking a real little garage business up into the global stage. And it's something we're very proud of. It's been a fun journey. I mean, that's just one example. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Yeah, you're very much so. I mean, you work on a broad spectrum and solve problems along, not just in the startup world, but also in the scale-up world. And what I quite like and what I actually love is the fact that you're willing to put skin in the game from an equity perspective and put your sort of head on the line. I think that's interesting, a very, very interesting model. How do you maybe make those decisions? What's the process you guys go through to select those innovative companies that you think are going to be the next wave or the future?
There's such a mix of reasons why we'll get involved in something, and some reasons overpower others. So I think three of the main reasons are the founder, him or herself. You back the jockey. If there's money involved and there's potential to scale and grow and make a lacquer profit. Sorry, I said lacquer. I don't know if anyone wanted to understand. It's very South African. That's obviously something else. And also just wanting to get involved with stuff that matters. So those are the three things that I think we look at. And sometimes the person is more important than the profit, is more important than the purpose, or the other way around. It really just depends on a combination of things. And I think, we've been in business a long time. Trusting your gut is still really, really important. And I think can make a lot of key decisions. Yes, there are the numbers, of course, and the projections and the blah, blah, blah. But trusting your gut and seeing a future for something is also, really, really important deciding factor.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, we obviously aren't necessarily VCs. We don't, that's not our model or whatever. But we engage with a lot of VCs and angel investors, and they're always coming down to the numbers, looking at the projections and that. As much as we're entrepreneurs, we aren't financial people. We understand enough to run our businesses successfully, but a lot of the time we're looking at the vision, we're looking at the purpose, and we're buying into the person and their belief. And a lot of it comes down to our gut, looking at our experience in the space, in the world, looking at the various markets that we worked in and going, is there a need and opportunity for this? And it really is just a simple yes or no in most instances. And if it's a yes, then we're in. We're keen to get involved. We're keen to help out. And a lot of the time, it's a long game in those instances. We have day-to-day and month-to-month bills to pay. So we're looking for those clients that will help us subsidize that, of course. But we also in it for the long game. We're seeing those people out there who need a helping hand. It's not a charity. It's not philanthropic. Slurred my way through that. Philanthropic. There's a degree of that, but it comes down to something that we believe will do well and just needs that support.
It's a great ethos. And you also previously mentioned, you guys look at business as not just money making, but also the impact it has. And as you are working with sort of startups and scale ups and these businesses that are creating our future, definitely in the tech space, what do you think the future looks like as you're obviously at the cutting edge of some of these startups and scale-ups launching into the market and moving into different markets?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's one that obviously everyone's trying to answer. I don't think there's a right answer, except for I think that the new normal is going to be different. And I think that, if you look at the way that finance evolves, the world evolves, society evolves, it is an evolution. It's a gradual change, a gradual process. I often equate it to the geological process that we see, things like erosion and plate tectonics, They're very small, tiny little movements that you don't see over time. But every once in a while, a cataclysmic event happens, something huge, an earthquake or a tsunami or a big storm, that reshapes the landscape and changes things very, very rapidly. Something that could happen over millennia happens overnight. And the same thing happens within society, within economics, within the entire global structure. And there's often war or famine or those huge events that have a massive impact. And in our instance, looking at tech, looking at the move to e-commerce, to remote working, these things have been spoken about. They've been happening just at a natural kind of evolutionary way, in a natural evolutionary way. And something like this pandemic and this lockdown has suddenly forced this very rapid change, this rapid evolution and adoption of these new technologies. And we're seeing it getting adopted at the rate that we would have liked, being invested in the space and buying into a lot of what we believe will bring convenience and sustainability and make an impact. We're seeing those changes happen. There's a lot of talk now around the openness to remote working, to conference calling. I mean, Kirsty and I, we were flying between cities, 2-3 times a week. Now that's not necessary. We'll still have to obviously fly occasionally to go and have those essential meetings, but your average status update or just a random catch up doesn't have to happen face to face. And I think that there will be, we've shifted right into the extreme of not interacting in person. That we'll never go back to where we were, but of course it will ease from where we are right now. We're also obviously seeing the much more rapid adoption of e-commerce, of new financial models, And I think that the way that the world was moving has been sped up by this thing. People who are maybe averse to e-commerce before are suddenly now forced to embrace it, are understanding the convenience of it, the safety of it. And suddenly they're going, well, actually, I don't have to get in my car and go buy my cat food. I can just get it delivered, and I can save that hour of my life and use it more productively. I can play with my kids. I can read a book. You can use that time more effectively. And I think that we will see a shift towards a greater embrace and handling of, more embrace of, sorry.
I got you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
You got it.
New technologies will be really, they'll survive and thrive.
It's interesting. I mean, it's. I think you hit on some good nuggets there, and it definitely does seem like we are accelerating. Or the pedal has been pushed down on the gas. Talking to a number of gurus in the industry across tech, it does seem to be a quicker adoption across numerous things. Maybe payments as an example in the fintech space, because I know you guys are in fintech. There's a number of different things coming out there right now. I mean, what have you guys been doing over the last 3-4 months since the lockdown? How have you been coping in this pandemic?
It's been quite a roller coaster, like I'm sure everyone can attest to. So we have always been, like Barry said, we travel a lot. Our teams travel a lot, both for business and pleasure. So we've always had businesses that can work remotely and digitally. So the transition from being in an office to working remotely was pretty seamless. What we did find, though, was that our creative process slowed down drastically. We learned that the creative process cannot be digitized entirely. And when I talk about creative process, I'm not just talking about designers and writers. Every industry, every role, from your CFO to the person who makes tea, there's a level of creativity to that role. And a lot of it just can't be digitized. You have to be in a room with people sometimes. You have to, bro out. You have to have that marker in your hand with a whiteboard to scribble everywhere. So there's been quite a few challenges there. However, we obviously stepped up to the plate and managed it, but it has made our kind of feedback loops a lot slower with clients. So thankfully, they've been super understanding. I think another challenge that we've faced or lesson learned here was we did have a lot of clients pull back. There were 3 massive clients we were meant to launch who just paused everything. And, we'd already put kind of the resources and budget in place to launch them. So that was pretty terrifying. But at the same time, we've had new clients come on board, seeing the necessity for digital marketing, digital products. There's definitely been an influx of that. So we've been very fortunate, but there's been a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of emotions, a lot of roller coasters, couple of tears. But we've learned that, I think we've always known as entrepreneurs that we're extremely resilient. If you don't have resilience, don't bother. It's just been tested in a different way now.
You mentioned a few points there, and I was talking to a friend out in Canada the other day. He was saying that the main thing that we as entrepreneurs should be doing, or business owners, right now during the lockdown is one of building those relationships, making certain that we touch base with maybe our network, our old clients, etc., and see what is going on there and how potentially we can help them, even if it is just a coffee over Zoom or whatever it is. I don't know if you guys are going through the same process.
We've had a lot of other entrepreneurs, friends in this space, and even some very successful entrepreneurs who have launched and sold big businesses and are now using the capital that they've made and investing and just sort of living off their payouts without sounding near. They've been reaching out to us just to check on us. How are you guys doing? Obviously, they've been through the journey that we went through, but without the challenges that we're currently facing. And I think that they're suddenly just going, wow, I'm fortunate that I didn't have to build through a global pandemic when we're, sort of just gaining traction into this whole space when suddenly someone threw a couple of bricks into the road in front of us. And it has been interesting to see the support base that has suddenly come out of places that we didn't even imagine it coming from. And just a random message, just a, hey, how are you guys doing? You know, if you want to have a catch up, has been very rewarding and something that we're very appreciative and thankful for. At the same time, on our side, we've been trying to do the same thing where possible because we've enjoyed a degree of success as entrepreneurs. And we're seeing people who are pushing into the space and are not don't have the safety net that we have managed to build in place. And for them, it's been even harder. So if we're experiencing this kind of challenge, we can only imagine what some of the other people out there are experiencing. So we've been trying to give back as best as we can in terms of just reaching out and, saying, hey, if you need some help or anything, if we, let us know and we'll help however we can. Yeah.
Yeah, and as business owners, and you run successful businesses, we all have to be opportunistic as well. There's some aspects of wallowing in the current, climate and feeling, but also we have to cast our net out wide and say, okay, well, in the next 3, 6, 12 months, this is what we think is going to happen. Are you guys starting to see the woods from the trees right now? Are you starting to look out? What opportunities do you see on the horizon personally and also in your business activities?
Definitely are. And there was a definite point, I think probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, where there was a turn and we started seeing people popping their heads up and going, oh, there is a future after this. And thankfully for us, we are in the perfect industry, in the perfect space to take advantage of opportunities. So I'm actually really nervous of trying to look forward now. If 2020 has taught us anything, is we have goals of establishing ourselves internationally and expanding, and whether that means physical offices in the UK, UAE, or the States, whatever it is, we don't know. It could just be remote now, but this time has given us a lot of time to focus on our processes and making sure that our team has the skill set to deliver what we promise to our clients. So that's been great. Yeah, we're excited. We're hopeful. We generally are very hopeful people. Yeah, we're just going to kind of carry on doing what we're doing and hold thumbs and all works out.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting point that Kirst touched on too. One of the big trends that we've seen globally has been a move towards outsourcing, especially from the affluent markets into places like India, the Philippines, and into South Africa. And I think it's one of the big opportunities for us as South African entrepreneurs to start leveraging that. Suddenly, I think a lot of the big global companies based in the Western countries and obviously in the UK too, are suddenly realizing that the skill set in these emerging markets that is very cost effective and very, very resilient and very hardworking. And we see opportunity to start leveraging the relationships within, we have a lot of friends on the ground and in various industries across the world, to start offering our services and South African services to them as a cost-effective option, as a fast option. In the States, as an option, we can sort of be doing work while they're sleeping, and they wake up the next morning and whatever they needed done has been done, kind of thing, And so we're trying to build those relationships, and I think the UK is key to that. There's obviously a long history and relationship between South Africa and Britain. A lot of South Africans on the ground there, and it's something that we want to sort of build on and help build and grow together. I think that it's key for the nations like ours in particular to build those bridges and support each other. And we can do it cost effectively without impacting that side too badly.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've mentioned that. And I'll pick up something what Kirsty mentioned. Maybe we don't have to dive into too much detail. So it's probably another session, if I'm honest with you. But the shift from physical expansion, i.e. going out and getting an office in London or New York, to right now, I mean, you guys just said it, we're going to expand. Likely, it's going to be highly likely part of it will be virtual. That's very, very interesting. Ultimately, it's virtual growth. My assumption is you've done some thinking on it. If you have, it'd be quite interesting to get a bit of a snippet into that.
I think I'm very grateful to lockdown for opening people's eyes to the fact that you don't have to be in the same city as them. It sounds very old school, but people still believe that. Even us being in Durban, and not being in the economic hubs of Joburg and Cape Town, even that has been
a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. It's, wait, you don't have a 10,000 square meter office in Sandton. Oh, okay, no, we can't take you seriously. What lockdown has definitely done is has opened people's eyes to the fact that no matter where you are in the world, if you have a rad service provider who can deliver on what you need, why not? It doesn't matter where they are. So the option of just expanding virtually is definitely up there. But, as we've learned, we never know what to expect, and we'll just see what happens. And also, you do need people. That personal interaction is so important. And so we'll see how it goes, and just let it do its thing organically, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's two sides to it. The one is shifted mindsets in terms of people suddenly now being open to dealing with someone who's just a face on a screen on the other side of the world or just the other side of the country. At the same time, to Kirst's point, there's trust. There's always trust in business. If you're building partnerships, it's key. And I think just a simple handshake, or even if it's just an elbow tap in real life, whatever we do coming out of this thing, is important. It'll always be key to business relations. What this has also done on the other side is obviously open up the technical issues. It's forced us to embrace the technology that can facilitate these things. From remote and virtual meetings to the tools, shared workplaces, and sort of document storage, whether it's through Dropbox or Asana or a platform like Monday.com for task management and that. Suddenly all of these digital assets are being thrust upon businesses, and they're forced to embrace them. Whereas before, a lot of, and I know from working in legacy businesses, there's a lot of animosity around adoption of new technology, especially from at a CTO and CIO level. And now that they have no option, these things are being embraced and adopted, and they're suddenly understanding the value that they offer to a business in terms of efficiency and streamlining. And I think that if anything, that creates that mindset shift in terms of openness to, okay, we can actually do this. We can work with people based in Durban or in Mumbai or wherever, suddenly the location isn't as important.
To coin a phrase, you're lekker. There we go. No, I totally agree. And I think everyone definitely have, anyway, the guys and the girls that I've spoken to over the last few months, the paradigm has definitely shifted, and there's definitely much more collaboration. And people are open, and people want to collaborate and move and start growing again. And on that, as you guys have obviously been through the mill, and you've had multiple businesses, you've had successes, you've had failures, and obviously you're in the process of growing another business right now. Is there any tips or a bit of advice that you can give scale-ups or startups on the cusp of growing their business? What things should they look out for?
From my side, there are two of the most important things. I think the first is very boring. It's make sure your processes and systems are absolutely seamless. Going into business, I always think, what would happen if I was hit by a bus tomorrow? Will my business survive? Will it carry on without me? So it's always looking to that end goal, which, a lot of the time should be actually selling your business. And what systems and processes must I put in place in order for this business to run itself so that eventually it has a cool valuation and I can sell? And the second part is, if you are a leader, a business owner, even just, a manager in a corporate, there's a lot of stuff that is polarizing right now. So as a business owner, it's really, really important to hold genuine empathy, whether it's towards your team or towards your clients, an understanding of an appreciation for people's lived experiences, especially now, is really, really crucial and will take you really far as a leader.
Yeah, if I was to give one bit of advice, would be to be realistic. There's so much information out there now about, follow your passion and, and everything else will come. And while I fully endorse, of course, being passionate about what you do, it needs to be meted with realism. I could be the most passionate person in the world about making wagon wheels, but there isn't a very big market out there for wagon wheels now. There hasn't been for a couple 100 years, or 100 years at least. So you need to just take a reality check and make sure that there is a real market for what you want to do. And I say that because we do encounter a lot of entrepreneurs who have an idea that just isn't realistic. There isn't a real market for what they're trying to sell. Do the work, do the research. Don't fall in love with your idea. Make sure that other people will too, because that's more important.
Oh, great, guys. I mean, listen, thanks for sharing, and some great stories, some great advice, and also, obviously some great businesses and successes that you guys have had. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for sort of diving deep and sharing some of your experiences. I've loved it. It's been fantastic, and we've also jumped into a couple of South Africanisms, which has been fun. Brought me back to the old days. But yeah, again, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Richard.
Cool.
Take care.